No, she didn't. Okay. Well, I got a cat in front of me. But strangely, she's not in the way. Alright, Magical Wind. Emperor, Strago, Fusion, Vivi, and Alphado. It's not exactly the largest category, is it? Well, that's fine. We could use a small one like this every now and then, right? We'll start her off with Emperor. Emperor is Wind and Dark and grants attached wind on his BSB cast. And he does do earth and wind damage with his USB, but he imperil earths and debuffs, so whatever. With his USB. The BSB commands are nondescript, so he's just giving himself attached wind. He'll get C because he can at least pair that attached wind with Meltdown. It's just, this is like the tier of how powerful is Meltdown. Apparently it's pretty powerful. Next is Strago. It is though, Ricky. Not for Magicite or like really difficult stuff, but no, C is not meant to be usable in those. For, you know, you could use Emperor and Meltdown with his BSB for a Magicite clear, sure. Meltdown makes it usable. You will do damage. You probably, at the current time, you know, deal upwards of 25,000 to 30,000 damage. It is usable. Maybe not to you. Right. C is like, I'm just trying to clear this. And he does get there. Like I said, it's just a reflection of Meltdown. So Strago gets an OSB. And he has a really, really interesting BSB. The entry is Water, Wind, and Earth. It grants attached water, but that's actually okay. So I do have to spend a couple seconds talking about Strago's commands. You see here, one of them is 8.68, Water and Earth, while the other is, what? 46.0 multiplier on a second command. And that's not a typo. It's just calculated differently because the attack is Water and Wind and two single attacks of 23.0 each that ignore resistance. It's just calculated differently because of the resistance ignoring. I'll lay it out for you. If he is exploiting a wind vulnerability, it does 20,000 damage. This was a much better burst soul break back before the ability upgrade. But now, where most characters, they can at least competently deal damage, like Emperor, for instance, can deal more than 20,000 damage a turn. Strago cannot. Because he gets attached water on his burst. So he is unable to use, you know, Meltdown better than Emperor could. Strago's OSB, though, which would be heavy in his determination on how good he is of a character, is only Water and Earth. So, which is weird. I don't understand why they excluded Wind. because, you know, would it have been so bad for them to give us a passable wind mage? Well, they didn't. So Strago's ability to deal 20,000 damage a turn is, let's see. Oh, he does get dual cast, doesn't he? That's true. Is it 35%? No, it's only 25. LM2, 25% chance to cast an ability group that restores HP for 30% of the target's maximum HP after taking damage from an enemy. It's kind of cool. It's not the first time we've seen that, is it? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I still think he's worthy of C. No. He would actually need to hit. So, oh god, yeah, it's dual cast water. I didn't even see the water. So, yeah, absolutely C. Because at least the baseline of 20,000 damage a turn, which he will do. He will do that. It's at least usable. But next up we have Fusion. Fusion was pretty good. Was one of those odd characters where she has a super soul break. That's just an element super soul break, but it was actually a big part of what she did. And then it became a very big part of what she did, because she is the only character in the game, besides Onion Knight and Tyra, who don't really count, that is a mage ninja. So what this provided to her was Attach Wind gave her the ability to really go to town with the ninja ability. And it's instant cast speed, so it's actually a really potent soul break by itself, and is one of the very few supers that can like headline a magicite team, or just an elemental team, and dealing wind damage at the moment. And then she kind of moves to the side with her capabilities with her BSB, which is also instacast, but applies a group debuff of magic and resistance 40%. Definitely got lowered capability in magicite dungeons, but at least it provided a quick cast time command to pair up with her super soul break. So these things were good, and it's not as good as they used to be. They used to be some of the best shit in the game, but it fell off a little bit, just a bit. But they did decide to add a USB to her in the latest Final Fantasy VIII event to go with the OSB that she got in the last Final Fantasy VIII event. The OSB is just great. You know, it's a 42.5 multiplier when exploiting elemental weakness, which she should be doing. So pair that with her capabilities of a burst and the USB, which I probably should have gone over first. Gives her short quick cast, which I believe is a 15-second quick cast, so the same amount of quick cast that you get from an X mode. And I believe it's a global. It's a global quick cast for 15 seconds. Attach Wind and Sui follow up to the user. Which randomly deals 5 or 10 single attacks of 1.65 or 5.6 each. So it's a 60% chance to basically super soul break as a chase. And that's a 15.6 multiplier. But if it only does 5, then it's, you know, considerably less. But it's not a 50-50, it's a 60-40. So you're generally going to be doing, I mean, if you average it out, it would be doing more than 10 at least. So that's a really powerful chase. But the thing is, the chase only happens once every 2 turns. Yeah, just because of the way it works. It's like kind of like Squalls, which is okay when you consider how fast she does what she does, because she already attacks at half cast speed because she's a ninja, and then the global quick cast that she gets on top of that allows her to attack almost instantly. Yeah, so she does a lot of wind damage. And the global quick cast does affect her OSB casts, which is nice. And yeah, all of her stuff is plus wind. The OSB is not, that's true. But her USB, which is what we're judging her by here, which is what brings her into the modern era, is a plus wind thrown weapon. Six-star native. That's what matters most of the time, unless we're talking like wind weapons now. Anyway, it's S. Just because not only is she a black mage, but she's a ninja, so she can use her burst to half cast time abilities out. She can use meltdown, or she can use ninja. And her legend dive is 30% chance to grant quick cast 3 to the user after using a wind attack, as if she didn't have enough ways to lower her cast times already. So if you do this, then she actually just will be... She will be attacking at instant speed, nearly. You know, what is that, a 0.2 seconds cast speed? Oh yeah, she has support 4 access, too. Add fuel to the fire. Meltdown sure is S tier. Alphino's odd. But he's really easy. Alphino's Burst Soul Break is actually still highly relevant. Because, like Sid Reigns, he gains a charge of instant cast after he uses his first command, which increases the DPS of his first command beyond that of, well... everything? I think it's as good as casting Meltdown. And he has a 35% chance to dual cast. It's just crazy that I could possibly rate somebody S tier solely based on their BSB. And I haven't even included his USB yet. Right, Alphino's command 1 is instant cast, while Reigns' command 1 is instant cast magical attacks. Which has been relevant before. Not as much now as it used to be, but still, it is. Alphino's BSB is just disgusting. And the fact that it is instacast and attach wind and can double cast, 35% chance to double cast. Alright, but let's at least talk about his USB. Ashton Pride, thank you very much for the follow. Alphino's USB is not meant to be used with his BSB. It's meant to be used at different times. It's Terror Flare, 7 group attacks and grants attach wind and X mode Dreadworm Trance to the user. This is a completely area of effect oriented BERT or USB, but can also be used as a single target. It's just not nearly as strong, and it's just good instead of, you know, the nuts that is his BSB. Dreadworm Trance. Summoning attacks deal 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30% more damage at ability rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cast Dread Flare when removed. This is why it's as good as it is, even against single target, because it enhances all of that, that area of effect multiplier reduced damage up to single target levels, as long as you have it at rank 5. So it's nice, but if you want to use this as well as it can be, which means just taking advantage of his dual casting and his 30% summoning attacks, meaning he can use any summon to do all of this, you're gonna need to do a lot of honing. But he does get attach wind with his USB, so it obviously is meant primarily to be used with Tiamat. And it casts Death Flare when removed. So that's the key here, that all the damage that you do during the 15 seconds that this is active is relevant, including all of your double cast, because that's added to it. Because what Death Flare does is 5 group attacks. And remember, this after the 15 seconds expires, once X mode is gone, this enters the fray. 5 group attacks that deal damage for 7% of the damage dealt with summoning attacks, and Smart Ether 2 to the user. It's obviously to prevent you from running out of the crazy amount of summon holds that you're going to be using. So this is 5 group attacks that deal 7%. So that's 35% of the damage that you dealt during that 15 seconds is done again. And it's non-elemental, which is a good thing. So that essentially means that the damage that you do is based upon the element that you hit. So in the case of, being M-Wind, and you use Tiamat after using the USB, then this damage will do, 35% of what you do with Tiamat. So while it is, and can be, it is probably known as more of a non-elemental summon, it doesn't actually do non-elemental damage, because the damage is completely based upon the element that you're dealing. Why it's known as a non-elemental damaging USB is because in most situations, if it's a single target and either it's neutral or vulnerable to wind, you're using his BSB. So why would you use his USB when you can't use his BSB? And when does that happen? When he's resistant to wind. So that's why this turns into a non-elemental USB, is because this gives Alphino the ability to remain relevant as a damage dealer, even when he's dealing non-elemental instead of just wind damage. And because the entry of his USB is wind and dark, he can deal damage on elements that aren't wind or dark, but he's primarily wind because of the attach wind, and then because the entry of Terror Flare is dark, he can also use Ultima Weapon and can be a fair dealer of darkness damage as well. But yeah, it's primarily wind, but in the end it becomes non-elemental because his BSB is just kind of gross. The only time you're using this as a wind soul break is when you're dying for the area of effect, which unfortunately isn't most bosses. Anyway, it does add capability to Alphino. And Alphino's Legend Dive is very competent And by very comedy, it's exactly what he needs. 35% chance to dual cast summoning abilities and grant attach wind at the beginning of the battle. And if anyone's seen the way I do our golem fight at the moment, it is by starting the battle by casting Meltdown. So granting attach wind at the start of the battle is actually really powerful. Being able to... Oh, yeah, you can't dual cast Meltdown at the beginning. But yeah, so I would cast Meltdown at the beginning of the battle before he gets an entrust to go into his BSB. Which will deal 80% increased damage right off the bat. So I would love his LMR. It's not totally strictly necessary, but I think it works really well on him. Anyway, Alphino gets S because his Legend Dive and BSB makes him a disgusting dealer of the wind damages. It's either feast or famine here, huh? Is there no middle ground? No, there isn't. What's up, Max Rage? Yeah, Vivi's all the things. Meltdown's pretty OP. If it's black magic, Vivi does it really well. So there isn't a whole lot of discussion that needs to happen on this tier, obviously. Or this list. Keep on doing that.